Hi everyone, welcome and thanks for joining us today. Today we are joined by Jeff and Joe from Start, Grow, Manage in this live webinar on how to scale your MSP. Jeff, Joe, thanks for joining us today.
David, thank you for having us. And as David said, I'm Jeff, and this is Joe, and we're partners at Start, Grow, Manage. We're all about scaling effectively MSPs, and we're going to take you through three things that you can do now to improve the scalability of your MSP. So we ready to go?
Yeah, thank you. Before we do start, could I ask you guys to just come a little bit closer to the microphone so we could hear you a bit more?
Oh yeah, sorry about that.
Fantastic.
Can you hear better now?
Yeah, that's much better. All right, you guys are ready to go. Thanks a lot.
All right, sounds good.
All right, so I think I'm going to jump out.
Yeah, so Joe's going to jump off so that we don't just standing here while I present. So go
I
over
will
there.
be in the chat, so if you have any questions, you can ask questions, and I'll answer them in the chat. All right.
And hopefully this all works. We're sort of in this hotel room dealing with all of the making this work in a hotel room today. So, funny background and everything else. But here we go. So, what we want to chat about is how to scale your MSP. And we want to make this a very useful, actionable exercise. So this should be information that you can use. And along those lines, we like to start with how to actually influence yourself to do more and to get more done. So we actually have done some work with Robert Cialdini, and he has done some research that shows that there's a way that you can make yourself 700% more likely to get something done. So you say, I want to get this done. And if you want to make sure that you get it done, he's got a way to make sure you get that done. And the way that you do it is by stating a commitment, by writing down what you agreed to do and what you promised to do. And so what we've done, and if you do it publicly, it's even better. So what we've done is we've created our public commitment sheet, and we use this for ourselves. And you'll see I use this with my daughter to make sure she's getting her homework done. And we use this to make sure that we get our stuff done. It's at startgrowmanage.com/commit. And as we get started, I encourage you to go out and make a commitment, or you can make a commitment later. All we do with this is you put in your commitment, and you can make it public if you want. We'll remind you in 30 days. That's all this is for. And the idea is that by doing this, you're going to be more likely to take some of the actions that we talk about today. So what we found when we start talking to MSPs and we started building MSPs is that most MSPs, believe it or not, are started by technical people. Like Joe, when he started his MSPs, technical person, not necessarily big on business. And so what happens is you get that first client, you start moving down the pathway of building a business. You see that dream of this is where we're going, and here's the opportunity, right? And you're just ready to celebrate and celebrate the fact that you've built this amazing business, and then reality kicks in, right? So you go and you sort of bounce along the bottom, and you lose the first client, and then you have to go sell and deliver and sell and deliver, and you feel a little bit like you're stuck, and no matter what you do, you're taking your eye off the ball somewhere, right? And it becomes sort of this Sisyphusian task of rolling a boulder up the hill, next day rolling it back up the hill, and it feels a little bit like this, right? You've got these clients, and they all want more, and they want to pay less, and they're all calling you at the same time. And if you're really, truly honest, you'd really rather be anywhere else, right? You really wish you could be doing other things. You wish you could get out of the grind. And this is what we are fixing at Start, Grow, Manage. And just, so that you know that we've got something that you can listen to. These are a few of our clients. We've worked with all of these clients to multiply their business. So we're looking at growth, not 10% growth or 20% growth, but we're looking at how do you double, triple, 10x your business. And part of the way that we've done this is we've created a community of MSPs that come together and work together. We've got trainings and templates. We've got financial reports, and we've got templates that you can use, like legal templates that you can use, all sort of there so that you get that business stuff taken care of. And that's our bias. That's where we're coming from. Now, we went out and we talked to a bunch of MSPs, and we asked them, what are you worried about when growing your MSP? And we came back with 3 top concerns that people gave us. Right? The first one is that they're worried about client acquisition. How do I get more of them? The second one is work-life balance. So a lot of people are getting enough customers, but then the question is, how do I manage my life? Right? And then the third one is actually, how do I deal with more demanding customers? They want more all the time. And so to sum up, you need more sales, you need them more easily, and you don't want to drown in endless customer demands, even though customers want more and want a more tailored approach. So we've put this together to talk about what you need to get there, right? And we've boiled it down to these 3 secrets of growing your MSP. The first one is you want to create an unassailable competitive advantage. You want to do the right work, and whether you want to or not, you must speak their language. You must talk the way that they talk. And I'm going to go through each one of these and explain what we mean. But I like to start with the idea that the problem is that being a technology expert just isn't enough anymore, right? Like, you can't just be a technology expert. When I started my first technology business, I basically configured network cards, and that was plenty, right? Nobody knew how to configure network cards or how to make this work. So that was enough to build a business around. And now if you think about it, you start your computer and the first thing it does is it says, hey, welcome. Before you begin, enter your network information. And there's no need to configure your network card, right? That's done. So there's an element of technology that's actually taken care of for you. And there's this, as a result, there's this tsunami of change coming our way that's transforming the MSP market. And it's transforming it away from this idea of we do IT and find people to buy IT. It's just not enough to be the tech expert, right? Normally, when we start an MSP, we go out and convince people to buy. We become these technology dealers, like, hey, you want IT, man? I got some IT, you want it. But that's not how people buy, and it's not what they're looking for. So that's why you have to create this unassailable competitive advantage, the strategy, so that you don't just do IT and get people to buy it. You have something that they've got to have. So how do you create an unassailable strategic advantage? Well, we start with this model from David Collis and Ruckstadt, which we really like, that they published in the Harvard Business Review. So someone else must think it's important. But we've used this model throughout building our business and through working with our clients, and we found it very useful. And essentially, what it says is that there are 3 areas that you need to think about as you're building your business, right? You have to think about your customer needs, your competitive offering, and your company capabilities, right? So there's the things that your customer needs, the things that your competitors are offering, and the things that you do. And I'm not sure what happened in my labels here, but if you remember, the blue one is the customer, the green one is your competition, and this beige one is what you do. And your competitive advantage is that yellow piece. It's where what you do intersects with your customer, but not with your competition. Now, here's what's happened as technology has grown, as technology has become more commoditized, is that advantage has shrunk, right? So now that your capabilities have moved close to those competitive capabilities, and now what's different isn't very big. We just had a conversation the other day with someone talking about token ring networks, right? There was a time when if you knew token ring, you were good. If you knew Ethernet, you were good because you had these two separate camps, right? But now everything's Ethernet. Everybody knows how it works. Everybody knows how to plug it in. So there's just not that differentiation that you need. And if you're here, this is what leads to customers always wanting more because they're not getting their needs met. Right? That big blue open space is their needs, and nobody is solving the problem that they need. And that's why it leads to the commoditization, price competition, and those unmet customer needs. Now, how do you know if you're here? How do you know if you are in that space without a competitive advantage? Well, when we talk to people, this is what we hear, right? We hear these types of responses. There's the very honest one that says, hey, we sell to everybody. So we're asking them, whom do you sell to, right? Who's your target market? And the honest ones will say, well, we sell to everybody. And then there's the clever answer, right? Wow, we work with anybody whose check will clear. Or there's the, well, I think I have an avatar. I think I have a target market, but not really. SMBs. Because SMBs end up being 93% of the market. And I've never met somebody who's going to turn down a multi-million-dollar project with somebody because their business is too big, right? So ultimately, if you say small, medium-sized businesses, you're selling to everybody. And then there's the clever, 50-cent word, we are agnostic, right? We are agnostic. We work with anybody, any industry. It doesn't matter. And what we say is that agnostic is where MSPs go to die. And you can Google it. What is agnostic for MSP? And you will see it is where MSPs go to die. Why? Because everybody looks exactly the same. Everybody's doing the same thing. And nobody's standing out. You've got that little tiny sweet spot and competitive advantage. So I'll give you an example. So the key, right? The key is for you to then go and then get to know your customers, get to understand their needs, get to move closer to the customer. So you're not doing the same thing as your competition, but you're figuring out what the customer needs are, talking to them and delivering something special and unique to them. And again, my labels have just disappeared, not sure why, but this is what happens when you do that. You move towards that competition and you create this massive yellow shaded area that is an unassailable competitive advantage because you know that customer group so well that you are unique in that market and nobody else can take that away from you. So I'll give you an example. One of our clients, Gray Matter come to us. We started working with them and they said, well, what we do is we sell VoIP to anybody whose check will clear. And if you've ever tried to sell VoIP, you know exactly how hard that is, right? There are a million people out there and they're all selling VoIP, 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 VoIP. And it is very hard to make yourself known in that market. So what did they do? They focused on hotels and they went to hotels and they said, they asked the general managers, what is annoying you? What is keeping you up? And the general manager said, well, we've got to have these phones, but the phones are dominating our operational meetings. They are keeping us overly busy and we cannot deliver customer service to our clients. So what they did is they transformed their business so that now what they do is they sell, we take phones out of your operations meeting. How do we do that? PBX VoIP. So they're still delivering VoIP. They're still delivering the same thing. They're still using their technological advantage. But because they've come closer to their customers and their target customers, they're now able to talk in a way that is meaningful to them. And now these guys are not worried about finding clients. They're busy finding financing because their business is taking off so quickly. They have to build their operations faster, right? They have no competition. They have an unassailable competitive advantage. So key one is to create that unassailable competitive advantage by understanding your target customer, understand their needs, and build your business around that. So the next part of it is to do the right work. And what is the right work? Normally what we do is we do IT and we find people to buy IT. So we do stuff and we find buyers. Now we can go back in time and look at how manufacturers dealt with this, because there was a time when we make cars and we find people to buy them, where we were tailoring cars to everybody, and a factory was just a place where you would go tinker and make it, and the sales guy was out, selling anything so that the people back in the shop could make the car that the person bought. And this is hugely problematic, right? Because it leads to lots of work that's always changing. You need highly skilled people who are hard to work with, right? Like when you have somebody who really knows what they are doing, they really want to do the thing they know how to do. They don't want to do it your way. So as a result, you end up with micromanagement. You have to watch them every step of the way. And it's extremely difficult to scale, because all you can do to scale is get people to work harder. You're not leveraging your technical capabilities. You're not leveraging the stuff that you know to create a scalable business. And as a result, you end up with limited earning capacity. Sounds familiar, right? When we talked to UpCasa, when we first met UpCasa, this is where they were, right? They had lots of work, lots of turnover, endless headaches, and no money, right? They were running their business. They were working hard. They weren't making money. They were stuck in that old model. So here's the opportunity, is to take that and you move from doing stuff to finding buyers to actually thinking differently about it, to putting sort of the buyers and their needs first. But this doesn't mean you go out and find buyers and then figure out what they need and develop a solution. What you do is you understand in the market what the problem is. And then you solve those problems, and you solve the problems before you even meet your target customer. And then once you've got that problem solved and you know who it is you're targeting and you know what they need, then you go out and you talk to people who have the problem that you solve. So now you've created a business, and you go to people and say, hey, this is the problem I solved. And they say, oh, cool, that's the problem I have. Or they don't. And then you go to talk to someone else who does have the problem you solve. So back to manufacturing, this is exactly what Ford did, right? You can have a car, a customer can have any car painted any color they want, as long as it's a Model T painted black. Because what he said is what people need is cars. They don't need them to be colorful or do all these other things. All they need is a car that works. So what you end up with, if you standardize and create something along those lines, is repeatable models and a standard way of delivering. You do the same thing over and over again, right? It makes selling easier, because you can say, this is what I'm selling. It's a black Model T. Everybody knows that it's a black Model T. It makes delivering easier because you're doing the same thing. It allows you to build intellectual property into your business so that you have something that nobody else in the world has. Now, when we did this with UpCasa, right? Oh, and it gets you to Tahiti faster. Forgot that last most important bit, right? Because once you have a business where delivery is easy and selling is easy, then you can leave the business. You can go do something else. We were just at a planning meeting with Joe and I, and while we were there, Joe was talking to one of our clients, and she got a phone call, right? She got a phone call from her office, and everybody's had that phone call. You know that your day is shot, the weekend is shot, right? You know what that phone call is. Of course, in this case, she smiled. She said, thank you. She said, that's great. She put the phone down, and Joe said, hey, what was that? She said, well, it was my office. He said, well, why did they call? She said, well, they just made the 2 biggest sales of the year. While she was sitting there doing planning, right? This is how it gets you to Tahiti faster. So back to Upcasa, right? They went from, by doing the things that we said, by putting in this factory, the repeatable models, they went from less than $1 million ARR to over 3 million ARR. They've now got 5,000 standard operating procedures. They did not do that overnight, right? This is something they've been working on over time, but they've got 5,000 now standard operating procedures. They have a 93% reduction in trailing tickets, and they've solved that retention issue because they've created such a strong culture. They had somebody leave, go somewhere else for more money, and then come back because of the culture. And when we talk about this shift in manufacturing, what we're seeing is that tsunami that's coming is the same thing that happened in these other industries. And it's not just happened in manufacturing, it's happened in every maturing industry. And now it's happening to MSPs. So the second key is to do the right work by solving their problem, your customer's problem, repeatedly. Now, the third one is to speak their language. I just need a sip of water here. Because here's the thing. We tend to think as technical people, as MSPs, that people care about the technology, that they want to learn more about technology, that they want to hear us talk technology. But here's the fact. Your customers don't care about technology. That's why they are hiring you. They don't want to talk tech. They don't want to hear tech. They don't care about tech, right? So when you're out talking tech the whole time, it feels a little bit like this, hey, we do IT, lots of IT. We're really good at IT. We're IT experts. We do IT so that you can run your business, right? And the person who's listening to this is like, wow, I really have to get back to work. How can I make this barrage of IT end? And this was one of Joe's first lessons, right? So here he was stuck in poverty until he focused his MSP on PI lawyers. So there he was, right? He's yelling at people the whole time, and he's stuck with no money. He's tired. He's frustrated. He's got a pile of unpaid bills. He's got team members who want to be paid, and everybody's doing their own thing, and he doesn't know where he's going to go. And it's just like, there's no way out. But then when he focused on PI lawyers, he went, spent a weekend, learned Saga, which was the software that they knew and they needed. He learned Saga so that he could then go to them and say, hey, I know Saga. I know how to use Saga in your business, how to implement it so that you get the results that you need. You spend less time on cases, more time making money. So that transformed the whole conversation from, hey, we've got IT to, hey, this is how we integrate Saga and make it easy for you to use, so that the other side is saying, hey, where have you been my whole life? They're not trying to get rid of him at that point. They're saying, oh my God, I've needed this forever. Whatever it costs, please sign me up. And then they call their friends up and they're like, hey, have you met this guy, Joe? He actually knows how to use Saga. Right? This is how it works. And that's how he started that snowball of growing that MSP that he was later able to sell. And we had one of our clients, same sort of thing. F1 IT couldn't keep up with customer demand. They couldn't keep up with what they were doing until they focused on dentists, right? So they knew, all right, we're going to focus on dentists and create that unassailable competitive advantage. We're going to go understand what they need. And what they realized is that the language they had to use at one point was that they know X-ray cables. Because one of the biggest technical problems that the dentists had was that their X-ray cables were breaking. So part of their offering, yes, they did email and they did Office 365 and everything else, security backups, but they also went to them and said, look, we're going to make sure that your cables don't break. And you know what? The dentists would give anything for that to end, because that was real money for them. They needed the other stuff. But when he went in and talked to them about, I am going to help you make your business work better by making sure you don't have these broken cables, then people were willing to pay any amount of money. And that's how he scaled his business. Now we have a framework for that that's very powerful, a great way of thinking about this. We call this the prescriptive selling framework. And to think about this, when you're going out and you're planning on having a conversation with somebody, think about putting it into this framework. You start with the problem. What is the problem that they have? You can't work with Saga. Your X-ray cables are breaking the whole time. You can't integrate with whatever. And you tell them, you say, this is the problem we solve. And then you accentuate it, right? If you can't do these things, then clients are unhappy. You can't bill, you can't make money. And then explain the solution to that problem, right? Here's our technical offering. This is how we integrate. These are the things that we do. But you take yourself out of it. So I even misspoke there, right? So you accentuate the problem and then you say, here's the solution. What you need is to have these things integrated. What you need is to have the cables replaced on a regular basis. And they say, yeah, we need that. And then you talk about what they end up with, how they end up transformed at the end of it, because they have more clients, because they're spending less time on the work that they're not interested in, so that then you can discuss the amazing offer that you're going to give them to deliver that transformation and that solution. So this is the PASTA framework, and we find this extremely useful. You can remember it: problem, accentuate, solution, transform, an amazing offer. And the idea here is that you move from like the used car salesman to the doctor prescribing a solution, right? So you go from, hey, this 2-seater jalopy is perfect for your family of 6, right? To, oh, you have a broken arm. Oh, sorry, I only do undersea hyperbolic medicine. I don't know anything about the broken arm. I'm not even going to talk to you about that, right? You move towards that prescriptive space, and it makes the sales conversation easier. And since you know what you're delivering, it makes delivery easier. So these are the 3 secrets that we find over and over again. Create that unassailable competitive advantage by understanding your target customer. Do the right work by solving their problem repeatedly, and then speak their language by talking about their problem and the transformation that they offer. Sorry, the transformation that you offer. They're not offering the transformation, you're transforming them. Now, it gets better, because here is where we come back to that competitive advantage. When we talked to MSPs, right, what we found is that few MSPs are truly specialized. Of all the MSPs that we talked to, less than 30% claimed specialization, but less than 10% were actually specialized. So if you look at the MSP market, there are roughly 40,000 MSPs in the market. Now, if 30% of them are, if only 30% of them are specialized, then by specializing, you immediately remove 28,000 competitors. But in fact, only 10% are specialized. So really, you're removing 36,000 competitors. And since most of them are not going to share your specialization or not going to share the way you do things, it's actually much less, right? You might be competing with dozens rather than hundreds or thousands. And when you're thinking about growing your business, if you want to add $1 million to your MSP, well, you know, $1 million is about 40 customers at $2,000 a month, right? If you double the price, which you probably shouldn't, double the price, then it's 20 customers at $4,000 a month, right? This is what you need in order to add that next million. We tend to think that we need 1,000 or hundreds, but it's in the tens. It's a few customers that you need to really add the value to the business. So if we go back to that PI lawyer specialization, you know, in the US, there are 50,000 personal injury lawyers in the US. In the New York area, there are more than 2,000. So if you're in New York, you know, it's easy for you to find 20 personal injury attorneys, right? Fitness studios or gyms, another one. 115,000 in the US. Again, in New York, 2,200 fitness studios and gyms. And I actually think that's probably understating the case. But if that's who you're targeting, you can find 20 to 40 customers within that group. Dentists, right? The experience of F1IT, there are 202,000 dentists in the US. Now, just for, state equality, or I don't know, to get out of the bias of New York, if you go to Minnesota, there are 4,000 dentists in Minnesota. In Duluth, Minnesota, so if you are in Duluth, Minnesota, there are 172 dentists just in Duluth, Minnesota. And I assure you, if you are in Duluth and you are focused on dentists, there is probably only one other person at most who's also focused on dentists. So you're really not going to compete with that person. You're going to meet with them for coffee on Tuesdays in order to understand and discuss what kinds of problems they're solving and how better to do the business you do. You move away from competition towards working with a customer, defining that unassailable competitive advantage so that you can grow your business. Ultimately, what it comes down to is two options, right? You can be one of thousands or one of a few dozen highly differentiated and standing out in the market. And by putting these three keys in place, that's where you end up, that nice green triangle on the right side of the screen. And here's the thing, right? It's just not that hard. We tend to think that it's a lot harder than it is, but it's not that hard. You can do it. It's something that is definitely within the capability of you as a business owner, because the technical stuff that you know is 10 times harder than what we're talking about here. You just need the tools. You need the ways of thinking, the templates, and the tools to move from this Sisyphusian task, rolling up the boulder every day, right? That manual labor, to creating a machine that lifts up those rocks, moves it for you, and your job becomes controlling the machine and deciding where it goes and cashing the checks. And to do this, we put together our model. So our model for the infinitely scalable MSP is how you build that MSP machine, a machine that is going to deliver results for you, create that predictable MSP that you can scale. And we have all the different elements in here. We've got 7 different elements of the business. We take it all the way out to the tools that you need to build that business. And the place for you to get started is with the Ultimate MSP Scorecard. So this is a completely free thing we have on our website. You can go to it right now. And you answer 50 questions. They're easy. They're fast. It takes 5 minutes. And what this does is gives you a scorecard that shows you exactly how you rank in each one of these 7 areas. And it gives you ideas in terms of what you can do to improve those areas where you may be falling down in terms of the best practices, in terms of creating that business machine. And then for anybody here, for anybody on the SPAA list, if you would like a free 1-hour strategy session to further hone that and figure out what are the top 3 things out of everything on the scorecard that you need to work on this month, this week, today, this afternoon, in order to get your business to scalability, we'll do that. The place to start, startgrowmanage.com/OMA. And I even did a clever QR code there, so you can scan it with the QR code and do this on your phone if you like. And when you go there, it's going to take you to the screen. You try the Ultimate MSP Opportunity Assessment, where you put in your information, answer the 50 questions, and you end up with that scorecard that tells you exactly what you need to do so that you can build that scalable MSP. And with that, I'm going to invite Joe back over here. And if you have any questions or concerns or comments or snide remarks, we'll take it all. We're happy to chat for a few minutes until we run out of time.
All right. Good. So make sure that you get yourselves out there and go to startgrowmanage.com/OMA and take that opportunity assessment. It's going to help you know exactly where you are and what you need to do to get yourself to that next step.
Jeff, Joe, thanks very much. We did have a question that came up. Let me read it to you quickly. The question is, what role do you think AI will have in MSP growth over the next century?
Over the next century? Oh,
Correct.
well, I 100 years from now, AI is probably going to take over the world. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next century. Here's what I do think is going to happen with AI. I think there's a lot of focus on large language models at the moment and what these LLMs can do in terms of content and some of the conversations we can have, research. But I kind of think that's the wrong place to be, or wrong place to focus. I think what we're going to find is AI helping us better understand how to create SOPs, how to create workflows for our clients, help us get closer to our clients. The AI is going to help us internally stop reinventing the wheel. So the more that we fix things, the AI is going to be able to ingest that and then spit out the solutions that we did last time, right? So it's going to make our documentation easier. And then we were talking to somebody yesterday. So we're actually at a conference here, and we were talking about AI. And he's come up with a very interesting solution where he's using AI to continuously penetration test client environments. And I think what we're going to see is more and more of these tools using AI to do very clever things that transform the way that we work. And these are going to be tools that are going to be phenomenally useful to all MSPs to implement. Can't say how that's going to play out in 100 years, but I think over the next 10 years, it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. And over the next year, what you'll see is that it'll help augment your staff. It'll help really make the team that you have more efficient and smarter if you're using the right tools, right? So there's a lot of really great AI tools that are coming out that help your teams, both from everywhere from marketing to finance to your troubleshooting, that will help you be more efficient. So really, you want to be looking at who is the market that you're serving and what are the AI tools that you can bring to make your clients more efficient. We are always looking from the point of view of how do I make my client more efficient and what are the tools that will make my client better. Then that's really, you can get that competitive edge.
I think I agree with you to a large extent. AI is definitely in the market. It's not going anywhere. I think we've all seen that, and we are only going to see that a lot more. One of the comments you just said there a few minutes, Joe, is get your clients. A question I have then is, how do you know what clients you need?
So say that question differently. Say that question differently, because I want you to say that question differently, because I think I know what you mean, but I really want to get my arms around it. Go ahead.
Sure. So I think all MSPs in the market, everyone wants more clients. That's a given, right? But you say get more clients. How do I, as an MSP, know what client I really need?
Good. So my answer to that, okay, or our answer to that is really that you have to really figure out what type of client you're going to solve a problem for, right? And it could be an industry. It could be a particular person inside of a company. Like I work with CFOs, right? And it doesn't matter if they're across different industries.
Sure.
Or I work with doctors, but I don't like just doctors. I work with ophthalmologists. I work with plastic surgeons. Why? Why do I say that? Because the more specialized you are, the better you can think about the solutions to the problems that they are having with their clients. The less specialized you are, the more you're stuck in that little sliver that Jeff showed of that competitive advantage. So the more that you can think about, how do I help this person sell better, give a better customer experience to their clients, right? Be compliant. What are the things that I have to worry about in their business? the more you can charge. And that's really the name of the game. How do you get those clients that those are the clients you want?
And then you're asking, well, how do we find them, right? Well,
Yeah.
once you know that I work with ophthalmologists, right, then you know where you can find ophthalmologists. And how do you choose ophthalmologists versus PI attorneys? Well, you probably have a couple of clients that you like. What do they do? And focus there. That's what we tell people is if you're working with somebody that you like, continue to work with them, develop your expertise around what they need, and then scale around that.
Right. And then if you're confused and you don't know, we do have some frameworks for that. So we're always happy to have a call with you and help you really think about how do you get your arms around what should be my ideal client. I hope that helps there.
Sure, no problem. We have another question, Jeff and Joe, is with regards, during your slideshow, you mentioned, and I'm not going to get the wording correct here, but you mentioned augmenting and creating that speciality. The question that came up was, if I focus on that, do I stand the possibility of losing my existing clients? And what is that risk?
You want to go?
Yeah, sure. So you can lose your existing clients or not lose your existing clients. So what we found happens is that as you focus, as you start to drive your focus, at first your clients don't notice, but over time you will see that more and more of your clients are going to be in that sweet spot of your target market, and your other clients, they may stay with you or they may end up leaving. But it doesn't matter, because there's plenty of opportunity over here in the new space that you've created. Your pricing is better, it's easier to sell, and there's plenty for you to do over there. So there's a concern around I'm going to lose clients.
Yeah.
And that concern comes from I'm not going to find new clients, but you are. It's going to be a lot easier. And the clients that you do have most likely are not going to leave. Well, we've honestly found, like I said, I did say, people do leave eventually, but what we've found is that honestly, what happens is that you end up firing them.
Yeah.
So more often than not,
that's why they leave.
I've had enough of these guys, and you just put up their price until they leave, because you want to focus on the things that you want to focus on. You don't want to deal with what everybody else is doing.
Now, with that said, when we say focus, we don't mean fire all your clients today.
Yeah.
We don't mean that.
Give yourself some time. Yeah. Give yourself an on-ramp.
When we say focus, what we mean is you have to take care of the clients that you have right now and be great with them and do all the stuff that you've been doing for them, right? You have to decide who's the client that you're going to serve. You have to build a product around that client. You have to build an offering around that client. You have to go find those clients. You have to onboard them. You have to take great care of them. And as you start to onboard more and more and more and more, the clients that are not your ideal client will either auto select out, or you will, because what will happen is that you'll begin to command price. See, you can't charge $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 a seat if you're just doing Microsoft and you're just doing all the basics, right? But you can charge $600, $700, $800 a seat if they have a line of business application. You know everything about it. You know how that EHR works. You know how that construction software works. You know exactly what it does and how to help them grow their business with it. You can charge whatever you want, and they'll pay it. And the clients that are small and not your client, and not necessarily small, they're just not your client. You don't solve the problem for them, they'll leave.
Because when you put that price up to $800, they're going to say, well, I can't afford that.
Yeah, I can't afford that. But you're going to be fine, because you'll make, with less clients, you'll make a lot more money, and you'll be way more focused, and you'll have a happier team because they don't have those headaches anymore.
And you get to go to Tahiti.
Switch. Yeah.
And you go to Tahiti or Hawaii.
Sure. We're running out of time here, but I did have one question that just came through now. I'm not too sure. And let me put it on the screen here quickly. Let me take it off there. I prefer to make enemies of my clients. Any suggestions on how to serve those enemies? I think that's kind of coming from a different perspective. I'm not sure how to answer that if you do.
I prefer to make enemies of my clients.
I don't
I think-
understand.
I'm sorry. I don't usually make enemies of my clients.
Yeah.
We love our
Anyway,
clients.
the question is on LinkedIn Live, Joe and Jeff. If you guys want to respond to that, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I would say don't make your clients enemies. Like make them your allies. Like we love our clients. I mean, we have such great fun with our clients, and you want to have great fun with your clients. You want to really enjoy them. So my advice, my friend, is to stop making enemies out of your clients.
Make friends with your clients. It's always the best way, right? You make friends with your clients, it'll go great.
We have run out of time. There was one or two questions. Also, our viewer who asked that original question is on there. So Jeff and Joe, if you want to respond to him, by all means. But we don't have any more time to continue with the webinar. So I thank you very much for this time. I thank you for all our viewers. I thank you for all the questions. If anyone is interested in reaching Jeff and Joe, please, that is the website there on the screen. Please reach out to them. At this point in time, we will conclude the webinar. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you, David. And thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you for doing